Hey everyone. So I wanted to address a series of comments on a couple of videos that I did on TikTok about dividends and dividend investing. After I'm done talking, I'm going to play all the videos that I did on dividend investing, on DRIP, on dividend reinvestment. It covers everything. It's like a dividend stockpile. All the videos on dividends are going to play after this, except for how to enroll in DRIP, as I've already done videos on that on this page. So if you haven't seen that video, at the end of watching everything else and you want to learn how to enroll in dividend reinvestment, then you can go check out that video. But something I noticed on TikTok when I was talking about dividend reinvestment was that people seemed to be missing the larger picture of what I was trying to say. And I got a lot of comments from people saying, you know, I did the math and I would have to buy 20,000 shares of Procter & Gamble. I would have to buy 10,000 shares of this one and 10,000 shares of this one. And that would cost me $2 million and this would cost millions. And hey, I just can't afford that. So this doesn't help me and I'm not going to do it. And I think so many people got sidetracked on just how many shares of one company they needed to buy to replace their income that they lost track of the bigger picture. Living off of dividends is great, but unfortunately, it's not going to be for the vast majority of us. Reason being, so many of us in this country are not paid a living wage. We are just drowning in every kind of debt you can imagine. It makes it impossible to escape, and it makes it possible to save, and it makes it impossible to invest. So the notion that people are going to be able to put $2 million into Procter & Gamble and live off that dividend is unrealistic and also kind of foolish. You never want to put all of your eggs in one basket. You know, we can look at General Electric as a prime example of this. People invested in GE over a lifetime because their dividend was great. It was General Electric. I mean, come on. And, you know, we're at a point today where GE is around $6 or $7 a share, and they pay a dividend of a whopping 1 cent per quarter. 1 cent. That's like $1 if you have 100 shares. It's a joke. Can you imagine you're over the course of your entire lifetime saving and investing, saving and investing, saving and investing, and putting every last dollar you had into GE stock, only to be here today, let's say you're in your 70s or 80s, and you don't have any money to live off of because the stock has lost so much value and their dividend has been basically eliminated. What do? That's why it's important to not put all of your eggs in one basket. And that plays to the larger theme of what I'm trying to get at with this whole long-term investing. People are so focused on how many shares in one company they would need to live off their dividend that they're missing the bigger picture, which is the goal isn't to do that. The goal is to have a diversified portfolio of dividend-paying stocks, growth stocks, and index funds, ETFs, mutual funds, and other streams of revenue. Not everyone alive is going to be able to replace their income through dividends. A great many of us might just be able to supplement our income a little bit here and there. But isn't that better than nothing? And so all these people saying, what I'm noticing is these people are then focusing more on short-term, high-risk, high-reward stocks, because this is the world we live in. We live in a very instant gratification world. We live in an Amazon world where I order something online, and if it doesn't show up tomorrow, I'm like, where's my package? Like, is it lost? What happened? I ordered it yesterday. It's not here today. And that's the world we're living in. So when I start talking about dividend reinvestment as a snowball rolling down a hill, it's not a fast snowball. It's very slow moving. It's like someone hit the slow motion button on one of those old school VCRs, and you're just watching the snowball slowly roll down the hill, getting larger and larger as it gets towards the bottom, but it's taking a lifetime to do that. And when people hear that, and they go, hey, and they hear me say, hey, live below your means, and instead of buying this, buy stock. Instead of buying a stupid thing you don't need, buy stock. Instead of buying crap that's going to sit in your closet and you're never going to use, buy stock, invest. And they think, God, that's going to take forever. You know what? I'm just going to pile my money into some really risky stock. That's the better use for my money. Because they hear high reward, high risk, high reward. And what they're tuning out is the most important part, which is the high risk part. Most of these stocks don't pan out for most people. But we live in an instant gratification world, and we live in a world where we want the most and we want it now, and we don't want to wait for it. We want lots of money and we want it now. And so we're piling in and we're not thinking clearly. We don't really know what we're doing. We're just buying random stocks and we're hoping for the best. And that's how most people end up getting completely wiped out. There's nothing wrong with investing in high risk, high reward stocks if you understand that there's incredible risk involved. But we're only listening to half of that equation. We're only listening to the high reward. Oh, really? I want that. It's like when you go to the store and you see the guy with the scratch-off tickets. You know, some people know they're not going to win, and it's just for fun. They sit there, they imagine what all they do if they won the money. They go, I didn't win, and they throw the ticket away. But some people scratch off and they go, shit, and they throw the ticket on the floor and they're angry. I really thought I was going to win this time. And that's some of these people who are buying these very high-risk stocks that don't pan out, and they end up getting very upset because they want the money and they want it now. What is your plan B? What is your contingency plan when high risk, high reward stocks do not pan out? You know, occasionally someone's going to win the lottery, but it's going to be a very small number. And it's the same with these high risk stocks. Occasionally someone's going to hit it big and they're going to go all over social media bragging about how they did it. You're going to see that post and you're going to go, man, I wish that could be me. And so then you're going to go do something risky. That's fine. But the majority of your money needs to be going into the long-term dividend stuff. Build the wealth slowly. So how do you do that? How do we do that in this country? One of the things we do is we have to live below our means. And in a materialistic, consumerist-driven world, we don't want to do that. Not to mention the fact that our television is lying to us and draining us of our resources. You know, these companies have focus groups. You know, they have psychologists and therapists working with them when they're cooking up these advertisements. You know, they listen to their audience. The guy who wakes up in the morning, he's already tired, he hates his job, he hates his boss, he hates his colleagues, he hates that he has to wear a suit and tie every day. He gets in his car, he sits in traffic for an hour and a half. By the time he's at the office, he's already in a bad mood and he hasn't even gotten any work done. You don't think that these companies know this? And so they do these advertisements and they say, hey, listen, we get it. Your life really sucks. But wouldn't it be a little bit nicer if you were doing all the same stuff you're already doing, but you were doing it in a Mercedes? Wouldn't that make you feel just a little bit better? And you go, yeah. And so you try to look rich and you try to increase your sense of self. Look at me, I'm significant, I'm driving a Mercedes. Everyone else is in a Toyota, but you're all going to the same place. At the end of the day, you're all going to the same office, to do the same job, to the same boss, and you've always heard that story, right? If you died, your job would be posted online before your resume. And yet, here we are, look at me in my Mercedes. The smart move is to take that money that those other people are trying to look rich and make themselves feel a little bit better, and actually invest it so you can be rich. And so you cannot have to worry about going to work. Because when you're 55 and you've amassed a pretty decent amount of shares in multiple companies, growth stocks, dividend stocks, index funds, all earning you different kinds of income, right? The growth stocks are earning you growth. You have thousands of shares in a company, maybe because it's split multiple times, maybe because you've been averaging in, dollar cost averaging every month, building and building and building your position. And now the stock has increased by 300, 400, 500% over a 15-year period. You're able to say, you know what? I don't have to work anymore. I've got my dividends over here. I've got my investments over here. Maybe I've got my home over here. Maybe I've got an income property. All of these things are working for me. So while that guy is still driving to work in his Mercedes to the same office that he hates every day, you are driving your Toyota, building so you can stop doing that. He's going to still be going to work when you're sipping a Mai Tai on a beach somewhere. So the way we do it is we is, they act rich now, but they're never going to be rich. We don't act rich now, so we can be rich later by investing in various streams of income and various kinds of investments. And that's what people were missing when they go, I can't afford 20,000 shares of Procter & Gamble. You don't have to have 20,000 shares of Procter & Gamble. You have to have a position in some dividend-paying stocks. You have to have a position in some growth stocks. You have to have a couple of ETFs and index funds, and maybe an income property. And once you have all these various streams, it's all you can sell a couple shares. And even if you're not living off of them, you can still supplement your income. You can still say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go to part-time now. Or, hey, you know what? I'm gonna sell 100 shares of this growth stock and we're gonna go on a vacation for a month. That's the goal. Just because you can't afford 1 million shares doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing it. You should be doing all of it. Buying all the different positions. Living below your means now so you can have a better future tomorrow. Nobody should look at this and go, well, it's just not in my favor, it's just not in my cards, so I'm not going to do it. And by the way, some of that money that we're talking about, all the different streams, one of them can be high-risk stocks. Because you really don't know. One day one of them might hit it. But you don't want it to be the majority of your money. Just like you don't want the majority of your money going into one position, because it could turn out to be like General Electric. So I wanted to get out here and address that right away. Diversification, man, and not just stocks. Income properties, gold, investing in a variety of different streams of revenue is critically important. And that's what I think was missing from my the comments that people were writing on TikTok saying, I just can't afford. Just can't afford it, so I'm not going to do it. I'd rather try to get rich now buying Kodak or Genius Brands or one of these other pump and dump stocks and hope for the best. That's a mistake. You need a contingency plan. You can do your little risky stuff, but the majority of the money should be going to the safer, not safe, just safer investments. So I wanted to get out here and address that before we go into the whole dividend series. Now you can watch the importance of DRIP, the importance of reinvesting your dividends. If you've already seen the TikTok videos, you can stop watching right now. And if you haven't yet, please hit the like and subscribe and the little bell notification so you can get new videos and new alerts to when I do new videos. Thanks for watching and have a good night. Oh, what happened? Investing in dividend-paying stocks is a great way to build long-term wealth. But you might decide at some point down the road, you know what, this stock isn't doing it for me anymore and I would like to sell. There are 2 dates you need to concern yourself with. The first one is something called the ex-dividend date. And like the name implies, it has everything to do with your ex and they're coming for your money. Really though, the ex-dividend date is just proof that you own the stock on the date of record, which is usually a day before the ex-dividend date. If you buy the stock on the ex-dividend date or any day after, you won't qualify for that dividend that quarter. The next date you need to concern yourself with is payment date, when you get that dividend. If you decide for any reason to sell the stock after the ex-dividend date, you'll still get that dividend. But if you're enrolled in something called DRIP or Dividend Reinvestment Plan, make sure you unenroll that stock if you're planning on selling it. Otherwise, you'll end up with fractional shares instead of cash. You want to know where to find the ex-dividend date? I'm going to show you. But first, I have to turn off the convention. It's thrilling. Now that that's on mute, let's go back to ye old office. Ex-dividend date can be found on any summary page of any brokerage. But, like you know, I use Ameritrade. Here's where you can find it on Ameritrade. So this is Apple's summary page. And right there in the center of your screen is all the dividend information you need. So here with Apple, you can see their ex-dividend was August 8th and their pay date was just a week later on the 13th. It also shows you the annual dividend yield. So you take that 328, and if you have 100 shares, you multiply that by 100. And that's how many dollars you get every year from Apple. 100 shares, $328. One share, $3.28. So you can buy 2 songs from iTunes. Either way, not enough money to get even 1 share. You got it. You've probably heard people on this app talk a lot about the importance of compounding. What is compounding? It's starting with a small position that builds and builds and builds over the long term. So let's use that snowball down the hill analogy for drip. Let's say you get a little teeny snowball and you're standing on the top of this massive hill and you roll that snowball down the hill. Now, it's not going to work fast. It's not going to roll down that hill super quick. You're not going to become a millionaire tomorrow doing this. The idea is that gradually, over time, that snowball, as it's rolling down the hill, gets larger and larger and larger. So over time, your position is getting larger and larger and larger. Some people, especially elderly, live off of their dividends. But young people want their dividends to be reinvested back into the stock. You can do this in something called DRIP on Ameritrade, or any other brokerage allows you to do it. It just takes the dividend that you've gotten and reinvests it back into the stock. I'm going to do more in the next video. So for the sake of easy math, I'm going to keep the stock price consistent in every yearly example. And you should also know companies pay their dividends quarterly, most of them. Here we are, we have a $30 a share company that pays 5% or $1.50 per share. Now, you happen to own 100 shares of this company, and you have enrolled in something called dividend reinvestment, which means at the end of the year, your $150 dividend will be reinvested back into the stock at $30 a share, which means you, that year, end up with 5 extra shares. Year 2, the stock price drops, but that's a good thing because now you have 105 shares earning the same dividend at a lower stock price, which means you make more money. Money allows you to buy more shares. In year 3, 2 things happen. 1, the stock price increases to $35 a share, which means you now have a $500 profit from your initial investment. But they also raise their dividend. Now things are getting interesting. So now you've been holding this stock for almost 4 years. You started with 100 shares, but now you have 116 thanks to reinvesting your dividend. The stock is now also $40 a share, which means you've got a $1,000 profit on your initial investment. Now things are really starting to cook. Cook! I forgot my dinner! But now something even cooler happens. You get a pay raise. And because you've been watching my channel, maybe some of that shit about minimalism and living below your means has rubbed off on you. And you decide, you know what, all that money I've got saved, I'd rather invest it than spend it on crap I don't need. So you buy another 100 shares. Now you have 216 shares, earning you $1.75, making you around $380 a year. That buys you an extra 9.5 shares. And that's why dividend reinvesting is so important. Oh, hot! Dividend yield is a percentage of the current stock price. This is a really good question. So the company decides what amount of money they would like to pay in form of a dividend. Maybe they pay $1, maybe they pay $1.50. So let's take a look. We have that same example from earlier, the $30 a share company that pays 5%. Well, 5% of 30 is $1.50. But if the stock price drops, the dividend yield increases. Now 6% of 25 is still $1.50. The dollar amount never changes. What happens though when the stock goes higher? The percentage decreases, but the amount stays the same. Now at the very end, let's say the company decides that they're going to increase their dividend from $1.50 to $1.75. That is a 16% increase, and the dividend now goes up to 4.37% on a $40 a share stock. AT&T stock stays pretty consistent. You don't make your money in a stock like AT&T through tremendous growth. That's why it's important to have a diversified portfolio. You want growth stocks like Amazon, but you also want consistent stocks like AT&T. The way you make money in AT&T is exactly through DRIP because the stock price stays relatively consistent, and over time their dividend increases, which allows you to buy more shares over and over and over at a pretty consistent price. So if you look at a 10-year chart of AT&T, now by the way, to your point, AT&T stays pretty, word of the day, consistent. It ranges anywhere from around 25 to 40. But in 2011, their dividend was, I had to check, 43 cents per share. Today, their dividend is 52 cents a share. AT&T stock price stays consistent, but their dividend increases, and that's how you make money. No, I don't think so. Typically, people have anywhere from 10 to 30 stocks in a portfolio. Some people might give you a little bit of shit over it. The only thing I would say is if you're in 15 or 25 dividend-paying stocks, you're probably not in any growth stocks. And you definitely want to have some growth stocks in your portfolio so you can have a diversified portfolio, right? The dividends are potentially a little safer. The growth stocks can give you much higher returns year over year. The thing is, some people are really busy. Maybe they have families, maybe they have packed social lives, maybe they're working all the time, and they don't have the interest or the time to sit at their computer every single day and go over 15 different stocks, because sometimes you might have an underperformer. You might want to dump that stock and put it into one that's really doing well. If that seems like it's too much work, it could make it that it's a little overwhelming. That's also why some people like funds, because there are money managers who do all that work for you. Let's keep this theme going, because the last video I did was on the same topic, but I had more to say, and luckily I found your comment saved in my drafts. There's a lot that goes into buying investments. I'm not talking about trades, I'm talking about investments, things that you're planning on holding 5, 10, 15 years. Sometimes one of the stocks in your portfolio won't be working for you anymore for a variety of reasons. Maybe they're just dropping off in revenue. Maybe they're adding to their debt that's making you nervous. Maybe they've got changes in management that you don't like. The bottom line is, when you've got 20 shares in your 20 different companies in your portfolio, it's a lot to keep track of. The beauty of using a fund, like a mutual fund or an ETF, is that they have fund managers. And those fund managers will go through for you. And they'll say, you know what, this stock isn't working. I'm funneling out of this loser and I'm going heavier into this one over here. The question is, how involved do you want to be in your investments? Very involved or not involved? I think it might be easier if I gave you a hypothetical. Let's say there was a company that has been around for a very long time and they used to be relevant, but they're no longer relevant. And when they were relevant, they had lots and lots of money, and they were able to give out that money in form of a dividend to their investors. For a variety of reasons, the company is no longer relevant. The share value is plummeting, which if you watch one of my earlier videos on dividends, you would know that when the share price drops, the dividend yield, the percentage, increases. Stock price is dropping, revenues are decreasing consistently year over year, while debt is mounting. Bad debt. They're not expanding, they're not taking on loans to do research and development for a new product. They're in trouble. Free cash flow is dwindling, which means that they might have to take on more loans just to pay their dividend. Let's not forget that management is out of touch with reality. When I see a 14% dividend on a $3 a share stock price, nope. Think of dividend-paying stocks like your rich grandparents. Every year when I used to go visit my grandma, I would say like, hey grandma, I'm going to see a movie with some friends. And she would go, whoa, wait. Do you have any money? And I'd be like, yeah, I have money. And she'd be like, hold on. And she'd get a $100 bill from the closet and she'd hand it to me and go, have fun. And I would buy my movie ticket and I would come home with the change and she would be like, nah, keep it. And I would put that money in my savings account. Now think about a young family just starting out, and the 10-year-old goes to his mom and says, I'm off to the movies. Can I have $100? She'll be like, get the hell out of my face. They're growing. They're expanding. They've got a future. They've got plans. They don't want to piss away their money right now. Dividend-paying companies have been around forever. They're reliable. They're consistent. They've got a stockpile of cash. People use their products year-round. They've been proven to weather any storm. What you get from a growth company is the promise of a better tomorrow and lots of growth. So think about it like this. If you went to CVS and browsed the aisles, basically every product there is owned by a few major conglomerates. They've been around forever. They're not really exciting. They all pay dividends. Coke, Pepsi, which owns Doritos, Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, all these companies don't really excite. They've been around forever. You use their products year-round. If Johnson & Johnson comes out with a new Band-Aid, nobody lines up around the block to buy it. Who cares? It's a Band-Aid, whatever. They're not going to have massive runaway growth. So, as an incentive to their shareholders, they say, look, we're not going to be $1,000 a share in 2 years like Amazon, but we can give you some money. Amazon, on the other hand, says we would rather save that money, potentially billions, to use it to innovate, grow, and build and advance our company. That's what you're getting. Instead of 3 or 5%, you're getting 200% in growth on the stock price. You'd need a lot. Let's use that $30 stock that pays 5% or $1.50 as an example. If you have 100 shares in that company, you've got a $3,000 investment and you're earning $150 per year. Say one day, many years from now, you've got 1,000 shares in that company, and by some miracle, the company's still at $30 a share and they're still paying $1.50. They won't, they'll be paying more, but for easy math, on your 1,000 shares, you'd be making $1,500 a year in dividend payments. Now, to be doing that, you'd have around $30,000 invested in that stock. So let's go crazy here and say, what if I had 10,000 shares? Then you'd be pulling in $15,000 a year, but you'd have $300,000 invested in that one company. So what's better, putting all your eggs in one basket? And what do you know, maybe one day that company goes broke or cuts their dividend? Or dividing that money up through multiple different companies all earning you various dividends? Not necessarily. So you have to consider the growth of the stock too. So let's use Procter & Gamble as an example. In the year 2000, Procter & Gamble was trading around $30 a share and they were paying 17 cents a quarter in dividends. Today, Procter & Gamble, about 20 years later, is $140 a share and they're paying about 79 cents in dividends. So even if you only bought 100 shares all the way back in 2000 and never reinvested your dividends, on that 100 shares alone, you would have almost a $10,000 profit. So now imagine that you don't only have your 100 shares, but you've been enrolled in dividend reinvestment. So you're getting additional dividends every year, additional shares every year, and you're buying more and more over the years as the stock value is increasing. If your average price per share was 60 and on your 1,000 shares, you'd have almost an $80,000 profit in addition to that. Nope, it doesn't take a lot to start. And that's the goal, is to start. I'm talking about as soon as you can start. That means if you're in high school, and you might not be, but someone watching this video may very well be in high school. If you are in high school, talk to your parents, ask for a brokerage account, say you want to start dividend and growth investing now. This isn't meant to be a get-rich-quick, happen overnight kind of thing. This is something that you chip away at slowly, gradually, over time. So if you're in high school and you want to generate some extra income to invest with, walk dogs, mow lawns, take tests for stupid kids. Well, maybe don't do that last one. If you live below your means and you funnel all your extra money into dividends and investments, you'll be surprised how quickly that shit can add up. When the holidays come around, don't ask for things. Ask for money so you can buy more shares. Slow and steady.